busy. So, all right, let's do this. So I'm going to do this as ISO 2. I'm going to do the 3 and 4 on this. So let's zoom in and let's see the best way to do this. All right. So this actually doesn't look too difficult. I think before I start, sometimes I'll just kind of doodle what this thing is. This looks like it's a cylinder. Like there's a cylinder under here that goes up. And then there's just basically a rectangle that goes over it. So that's what I think I'm seeing here. All right, so I think that's what I'm going to draw. So let's go ahead. I think it helps if you can try to visualize what you're going to draw first. So I definitely see that cylinder. Let's just define this. All right, so it's also, if you notice, not telling us which the front and side is. It's pretty obvious, right? Just because if I count these up here, at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Actually, I drew that upside down, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So it's going to be like this. And then over 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. It actually helped that I drew that because I realized as my idea was kind of wrong. The circle is facing me. So, but I've got this flat plane here. So again, I'm kind of going to work with what it gives me. It's not here though, this flat plane, it's back halfway through there. So this flat plane that I'm looking at right here actually starts 2 back because that's a solid line. So this line right here is going to be right there. And it's a flat rectangle I can see, so I would just go ahead and draw a flat rectangle. So again, it's usually easiest if you draw the flat surfaces. This again, now this is certainly flat, I can tell, because these are the same. So that goes all the way, and then there's a circle, so it kind of stops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but there's not a hard line because it looks like a circle. And then it does the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And then same thing. 1, 2. All right. So that's that. And then it's got this really difficult circle. So I guess what I would do is I'm going to just draw the center line. That'll help me. So if I go from the back, 2 up and 2 over, this is the center line. So I'm going to draw the circle here. It's between 5 and 6. So again, it's kind of like a clock. When I draw a circle, I start at the 12 and the 6 and the 3 and the 9. And what you can do to help you is, without using the compass, and there's a trick on the compass, but you can basically look and say, all right, if I'm looking at this bottom corner of 7, it's actually about a quarter of the way up. All right, a quarter or a third in that proximity up. So if I know that, then I could say, well, it hits it right here. And it does the exact same thing up here. All right, and then again, so at this point, it's about a quarter of that intersection, and then a quarter of this intersection, right? And so remember, circles are just straight lines put together. So here it's at about a quarter, and there it's at a quarter, right? And same thing right there. And so then it's just very carefully, and we're freehanding this, and then you're just essentially joining those points. All right, so this isn't perfect, but remember the way that I did that is basically transcribing these intersections on the grid 3-dimensionally. All right, so that's a little flat, but it's not bad. And then the thing is, if it stops here, it actually would go it would never hit this back line here, if you see that line. So essentially what it would do is go back at that 30-degree angle. So it would do something like this. It's always going to be at that 30-degree angle. So it's going to then, it actually starts to dive down like there. So do something like that. And then it goes back here. So it's going to do something like this, where you wouldn't see that right there. It goes back 2. Remember, isometric is equal measure, so there's no perspective. So wherever this is, it's going to go back 1, 2. So it's going to be like there, that quarter. Right, and then it's essentially going to be the same intersection. Wow, all right, so this is really tricky. So back, quarter, 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 quarter. So it's going to go something like this. All right. I think that is right. It's a little messy. I'm zoomed in a bit, and I did this by mostly freehand, but I think that's where we should be. So remember, that should dive down in the back a little bit. And I was a little heavy on my pencil, but I think I'm in pretty good shape here. All right, so okay, so that looks right to me. If anybody has any objections, please let me know. Otherwise,
do you need one more arm on that crosshair for the circle?
Yeah, thank you. So we'll do that. Thank you. And it extends beyond the circle. So something like that. All right. You really are better off just doing it with a straight edge the whole time. All right. So I think that looks good. I don't need to put, you wouldn't put a center line going this way on an object. So that looks good. I'm just going to clean this up real quick. All right. I'm trying to be Joe Cool and not use a straight edge, but I think you're better off using a straight edge. All right, a little messy, but I think we're okay. All right, so let's move on. I think that's pretty good. This looks very similar, but the only difference on this one is that it's not a full circle. And I can tell right away, obviously it's only a half circle, but then the center line indicator is there's only 3 of them, right? So we're missing that second half. So that's pretty straightforward. And the other difference is it looks like it's actually going up. So, all right. So if I was a little sea captain, I'd be in here driving my little boat. All right. So there's my little sea captain in there driving my boat, little submarine. All right. So front end is square. So I see this rectangle shape in the very front of this because it's flat. I can tell it's flat because it's 2 up, it's flat, and the top. So this whole surface on the front is going to be flat. So up 2. All right, this is one of those Civil War, they used to have the submersible trucks that would go into the water and they would battle it out. All right. Okay, if you know your history, you know I'm lying. Okay, so let's go back here. So this goes back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? Yep, 5. This goes all the way flat on the bottom. And then the back is flat also. What was the submarine? It was like the Monitor and it was the Confederate and the Union. They battled it out with the first steel ships. I think one of them lost and went to the bottom of the ocean. All right, so that is that. Then this back end is 6 back, but I know it's going to be kind of hidden back there. So let's see what that looks like. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to stop right there. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this half circle. So I know it starts, let's find the center of it. So if I go to the very top of this little amphibian vehicle, it's 2 back and 2 forward. So that's going to be the center. And let's just say that this would be where it intersects. All right, so I can safely close that off. All right, so then I'm going to do the same exact thing, right? So what I'm going to do here is, let me just zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to look at this grid. It's from the back, it actually hits, this is where it starts. It hits this line right in the corner, right at a quarter of it. It hits this at about a quarter as it leaves it. All right, and then on the other side, it's about a quarter of the way back. All right, and then it's a quarter of the way here. All right, so if I wanted to, then I would just connect the dots. And it would look like that. So I'm going to do the exact same thing down here. So I'm starting here, and a quarter of the way on this grid is right there, approximately. The quarter of the way is about here, and then it goes right there, and then it goes back about a quarter, and then I probably wouldn't see it. So then I'll connect these dots. And I'm just going to bring this down, and wherever those intersection is where I would stop that. So it's probably like something like that. All right, so now I have to draw where the little guy lives in there in his little cabin on his little ship, and his amphibian wheels. Okay, this is extra points. You don't have to do this. But these amphibious vehicles in the Civil War were just awesome. There's nothing the matter with revisionist history.
Yeah, I was gonna say that must have been like some time hop stuff or something.
Okay, and then he's got his little headlights here, because you know when you're in the water, you really need extra bright lights. It's amazing I got any schoolwork done when I was a kid, because this is what I did in every single one of my classes, no matter what the subject was: trig, calculus, history. All right, so, but I think we're doing all right here. All right, so the shiny hubcaps. I'm actually doing this because I'm trying to help you visualize this as a three-dimensional object. And so, and they had really strict regulations about blinkers back then too.
What do you mean they have regulations?
Well, like the U.S. Department of Boats and Automobiles back then during the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
You had to have blinkers and all that fun stuff too. All right. Okay, and then this is like the Euro, the Japanese, if you've ever seen where they've got the mirrors right here, because you still have to see behind you. Okay. All right, now your teacher's getting a little silly. Okay, so hopefully that helps you visualize that. All right, so there's a little man in there, or a man and a woman, or whatever, whoever's in there. All right, having a great time driving this amphibious vehicle. Okay, so let's stop the recording. Let's throw that recording away.